Good evening. We're going to call to order the regular meeting for the Akron Public Schools Board of Education for February 24th, 2020. Roll call, please.
Dr. Akbar.
Here.
Mr. Alexander.
Present.
Mrs. Autry.
Present.
Mr. Bravo.
Present.
Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Mrs. Mansfield.
Here.
Mrs. McKittrick.
Here.
And our student board member from STEM High School, Addison Johnson.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And as you have no doubt recognized up at the table this evening, we welcome Dr. Ellen McWilliams-Woods, who is sitting in tonight for our superintendent, Mr. James, who is away and cannot at another meeting advocating on our behalf and so cannot be here tonight. But we welcome Dr. McWilliams-Woods. And if we could all, if you join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by our student representative to the board, Addison Johnson. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. We'll begin with school and community reflections. Would anyone like to start? Oh, yes, we didn't take a photo. Well, oh, Mark's coming, all right. Are you going to grab a photo?
I got one, but I'm going to get one of those.
Okay, yeah, we forgot. I don't want to miss this opportunity.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Where's Dean?
All right, now we'll begin with community and school reflections. Would someone like to start?
I'll start.
Ms.
I
McKittrick?
had the opportunity to volunteer at Helen Arnold last Friday, and so I'd like to give a shout out to Mrs. Davis and the principal and Ms. Berzito, third grade teacher. I was working with the kids on their practice tests for their MAP testing that started today, so shout out to them for that. I was really impressed with their hard work.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I had the opportunity to visit Barber CLC, and just a special shout out to Mrs. Williams over there, who's doing a great job with the students. I got to help out in the lunchroom, which is always fun. Also, I visited David Hill CLC, and another shout out to Mrs. McIntyre over there, who's doing a great job. When I happened to be there, I mean, all the students in every class were diligently working on the iReady program, so I was happy to be able to share it with them that that's something that the school board members were, part of making happen for them at their school. Yep.
Very nice. Thank you.
Just want to give a congratulations to Dr. McWilliams-Woods, as well as Mrs. Davis from Bridges and Mrs. Davis from, Miss Davis from the I Promise School, who were both nominated by Red Oak. They had their very first fundraiser. They're a great mental health partner with our district, and I had the pleasure of emceeing that event, and they were all three honored there. I got to co-host with Kemp Boyd, which if you ever get a chance to co-host with Kemp Boyd, everyone should get that opportunity. It was a fantastic evening. Just listening to the accolades for Dr. McWilliams-Woods and both Ms. Davis's from our partners and how much they help with the mental health of our students was very encouraging. Also, I think we were all at the State of the Schools, I think, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and shout out to Dr. James for such a good job at that. And I know there was one more thing. Oh, I got to go to High School Strings in the Round and got to do the introduction for that event. It was nice to be back in my alma mater. And the orchestra teacher's name, Mr. Ebbs, is it Ebbs? the orchestra teacher's name at North? Eder. I'm like, it's an E. Mr. Eder was a wonderful host. He was very excited to show me they have a brand new stage at North and brand new carpet. So he was very excited to show that off, as well as the students did a fantastic job. It was set up so well. If you're part of the concert series at all, kudos to Mrs. Wilson and Karen Jujic for the fantastic job they do every year in organizing that, and to all of our students and teachers for how professional everything goes.
Yeah, so I'll jump in next. So I think we've all been fairly busy. I feel like I've been traveling to and fro quite a bit. So I've hit Pfeiffer. They would correct me, Pfeiffer. So I've hit Pfeiffer, Mickey Bright, Firestone Park, Ennis, Glover, STEM High School ×3, choirs and arounds, Miller South. It's been a whirlwind. And so let me just highlight for today the choir and arounds, high school choir and arounds at Kim Garfield last week. That was just nothing short of amazing. Just the passion that these kids are singing with. And when they're singing, they're not singing so much for you in the audience. They're singing for each other. They bring so much sort of passion. And I had a chance to talk to a couple of the high schools after it was over with, and I told them, I said, you guys just sort of grabbed me like right here in the heart. But I will admit that to having watched the show Glee back in the day when it was on TV, so all that singing and it totally just grabbed me. So I was right on with that. And then just a plug. The middle school version of this is actually Wednesday, again at Kenmore Garfield, and I'll be back to kick that event off as well, and would encourage all of you in the room to please come out, because it's certainly an event that's worthy of your time.
Thank you. Dr. Akbar.
So I had the fortunate or unfortunate chance of catching the flu this year. So I had to cancel, I think, 3 or 4 different school visits that I had, and thankfully to Ruth for rescheduling those for me. I thought I would save the students from myself. So that happened. So I don't have as many school visits this time, but I did get a chance after I was fully recovered to attend Columbus to see Miller South's unveiling of their painting for leader Amelia Sykes' office, which was phenomenal. It was a painting of the Akron skyline, just breathtaking. I think I sent it to everybody. It was amazing. As well as while I was there, I took the liberty to advocate on APS's behalf with some state legislators, and I was able to meet with the governor's legislative affairs director, Dan McCarthy, and Phil Robertson, who's on the committee that's leading Ed Choice, that discussion, and Representative Don Jones, and also the president of the Senate. I met with Larry Orpoff and shared with them the realities that we live with around Ed Choice, as well as our budget, which they were under the impression we received $8,500 from the state per student, which is not true. So I shared with them the accuracy that we actually received somewhere around $4,800 per student, and they were a little shocked by that. And so I thought that the discussions were good around kind of conceptualizing the impact that process or proposal would have on districts like ours. And most were pretty open. And it helps when Leader Sykes walks you to everybody's office. So that was good. The other thing that I was able to do is I was able to attend the announcement for the IT College Credit Advantage at Kenmore Garfield, which that partnership, I think, will be groundbreaking for our students, being able to get a 4-year degree or a 2-year degree at whichever one they want in a short time frame with the partnership with Stark State and University of Cincinnati. I was highly impressed even though I work at another university.
Well said. Well put. Mr. Alexander.
Yes, and I had the opportunity to travel to Columbus as well this past weekend, and I was there for OSBA, Ohio School Board Association Board of Trustees. The orientation for new trustees was on Friday. It was interesting. A lot of things that are going on, and then we actually had the meeting on Saturday, which was a long meeting. You're there for about 5, sometimes almost 6 hours, discussing a lot of different things that are going on around the state. And one of the big things that was highlighted was ed choice as well, and they talked about also the testimony that our CFO, Mr. Pendleton, was at as well, down there testifying in reference to ed choice. And there's a lot of talk going on about that, and the people are talking to a lot of senators and state reps and so forth in reference to that. So I hope that we will get some ground. We were told that we need to talk to as many people as we can in the state, and we need to encourage everybody else who's here and in our city to talk to any state representative or any senator down in the Columbus so that they can understand ed choice and how the dollars leave our district, which the dollars are here for us and for our students, and how that can take away from what we have and what we can do for our students. So that's very, very important. So I encourage everybody to get a chance to talk to anyone you can to make a petition for our students here and the dollars to stay here in our district. So that was basically what they talked about. There's a lot more, but I won't get into detail because I still need to go over some more information. It was a lot of information. So Mrs. Mansfield had already warned me that when you go down there, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going on. There's a lot going on in education. So thank you.
I forgot one quick thing. I wanted to give the president a congratulations also. Mr. Bravo was awarded from the Torchbearers this past Wednesday, and I got to pop in there for just a little bit just to give him a hug and a squeeze and a congratulations. Honored as outstanding alumni, is that what you were? Distinguished, pardon me, distinguished alumni for Torchbearers.
Okay.
And we are very proud of him, so I didn't want to let
Thank you.
Bravo pass.
Thank you. And we had some other folks and staff there. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. Mr. Johnson, do you have updates for us from STEM?
I do.
All right. Would you like to share?
Yes. Hello, my name is Addison Johnson, and I'm a senior at NIF STEM High School in the Academy of Advanced Technology and Design. At STEM High School, the students are known as learners because they are actively involved in the learning process, and the teachers are known as coaches because they facilitate the learning process. Speaking of learners actively participating in the learning process, our robotics team is going to the state tournament on Saturday, March 7th at Marion County Fairgrounds in Marion, Ohio. 3 teams consisting of 16 learners are competing. To qualify for the state championship, learners had to win at the VEX tournament or win an award at the VEX tournament. The state tournament will be live streamed on Twitter at NIFHS, that's NIHFHS. To support the team, please tweet "Good luck NIF STEM Robotics" on your quest to the state tournament. The coach of the team is Sam Appleby, the robotics and engineering coach at STEM. STEM High School is proud to launch the opening of our Innovation Lab in the space formerly known as the Learning Commons or Library. The Innovation Lab gives students a place to utilize the design process and prototype provations. A prototype provation is when a prototype is created, feedback is received on that prototype, and then the prototype is redesigned. The Innovation Lab has an esports arena, 3D printers, virtual reality lab, multimedia studio, video editing, Promethean board, and a collaborative area for classes to work on cross-content projects. The Tech Force manages the Innovation Lab. The Tech Force is a group of 25 to 30 highly trained students who fix laptops and schedule events in the Innovation Lab. The Tech Force team is in the Innovation Lab during their free periods. The Tech Force is trained by Jeff Kavanagh, STEM High School's technology support specialist, and Coach Marion Popa, the school librarian. The Innovation Lab is a collaboration with Goodyear, Ohio STEM Learning Network, Akron Public Schools, and the University of Akron. Instructional leader Dina Popa and Director of Specialty Programs Tomiko Hatcher collaborated to bring the Innovation Lab to STEM High School. STEM High School also has an esports team. I have a handout to share about the team. STEM High School seniors are working on their capstone projects. All 78 seniors have their own personal PBL as their capstone projects. My capstone project deals with runners and the endurance of their shoes' lifespan. Bi-monthly, my peers and I receive feedback on our capstones from business partners and APS staff, like Executive Director of Teaching and Learning, Karen Gijic, and board member Derek Hall. Joe Lettieri from Goodyear gave me feedback on my capstone. He told me that the wear and tear of shoe soles may only show in certain spots depending on how the person runs or walks. Mr. Lettieri confirmed my hypothesis that the shoe sole will change depending on the person. Coach Katie Metcalf, Akron Beacon Journal, Making the Grade Teacher for February, coordinates the capstone projects. In closing, I had the pleasure of sitting on the American Heart Association Vaping Summit with my fellow board members Salim Saeed and Luke Buckingham. We were also accompanied by students from Revere High School. The Vaping Summit opened my eyes that students in urban and suburban settings have similar pressures and need better coping systems to help deal with teen pressures. A lot of kids vape to deal with pressure and stress. Board President Mr. Bravo recommended that student board members visit the Summit County Public Health webpage for more information on vaping. I found some information helpful, and I recommend everyone in the city visit the webpage to find out more about teen behaviors that may put them at risk. Students need adults to be more aware and supportive of the pressures we face. Without adult support and awareness, students will have the guidance they need to make good decisions.
Thank you. Any questions for anyone on anything they reported out on? Thank you for reporting out on that. And for those of you in the audience who haven't heard our student representatives to the board report out before, we do have student representatives to the board, something that we worked on a couple of years ago, and one from each high school represents, and each time they rotate here, but they do a lot in between, as you heard from Mr. Johnson there. And I did lean over and mention to Dr. McWilliams-Woods that probably when we get to May would be a good time to have, and since everyone will be back in together, to kind of debrief and talk about the year and everything they kind of did throughout the school year. Each of us is assigned to be mentors for the student representatives, and so we always appreciate the stuff that you bring back to us, the information. We really appreciate it.
Quick just note here.
Yes.
So I just want to connect two things that Mr. Johnson talked about in his update. One, he mentioned the capstone projects that are at the STEM high school. So those are community volunteers, as he alluded to, that come in and can volunteer. And again, I've done it now three times now. And they have some really great projects, but what I want to connect it to is the comment about vaping and the reason why students are vaping. You're talking about that they're under a lot of pressure and stress. There were a number of students in the Capstone Project that were working on apps that were targeted at helping their fellow students deal with mental health, abuse, stress issues. So again, it's great to see our students actively working on problems that affect our students. So again, kudos.
And I'll just add one more thing on top of that, because those capstone projects started really as an alternative pathway to graduation at the state level, but we incorporated them at all of our academies, so the kids get to do that problem-based learning approach that really, which Addison is familiar with from STEM, but also extended out to the rest of our academies. So great work again, and that Summit County Health District Survey is the Youth Behavior Risk Survey, which has a lot of good information, and some of it a little shocking about our youth in Summit County and the risks that they face. So thanks again for reporting out. Anything else from community and school reflections? All right, well then we will move on. We do have One request to address the board, which will entertain at this time, Ms. Williams. Hi, welcome. Thank you for coming. If you come right up here to the podium. And when you're ready, if you could let everyone know who you are and what you're here to speak about.
Sure.
You'll be given about 3 minutes, and the treasurer will help keep time and let you know when you're getting close.
Okay.
We typically do not respond from the floor once you're finished, but we will follow up with a response to you after you've addressed the board.
Okay, sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity. Good evening. I reside on Pembroke Road, which I believe is the far western border of Akron as you enter Fairlawn, heading west on Market Street. Pembroke Road runs parallel to Revere between Market on the south and Smith Road on the north. My block of Revere is Pembroke is the southernmost block. It's a cul-de-sac of about 7 homes. And then 1 block north of us are all assigned to the Akron Public School District, whereas every other home on Pembroke Road north and literally every other home west of Revere is assigned to the Copley-Fairlawn School District. Many people, when purchasing their homes in our neighborhood, purchased them with the understanding that they were in the Copley-Fairlawn School District or on the specific reference from a realtor that they were in the Copley-Fairlawn School District. There is a statute that allows residents to petition the state of Ohio to transfer their neighborhood from one school district to an adjacent school district. That statute is Ohio Revised Code Section 331124. Pursuant to that statute, a resident shall present a petition to the Board of Education for their current school district containing signatures from 75% of the qualified electors in the territory to be transferred. I have obtained the requisite number of signatures and have a petition to present to you here tonight, along with 2 copies, frankly, because they're expensive and that's how many I made. I don't know if you're familiar with this statute. I don't know how often this is done. The statute provides that the school board shall then confirm the validity of the signatures, which I have done. There's only 30 homes. It's not a significant number. It took me about an hour, but to confirm the signatures and then present a map and present that information to the State of Ohio Board of Education on or before April 1 of even numbered years. I'm hopeful, obviously, that by presenting this to you in late February that you have the opportunity and time to do that.
Thank you.
Here's the original and the 2 copies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we have no other requests to address the board at this time, but we do now have a presentation. Status report from Akron Promise. Mr. Ginder, welcome.
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for having me here today. It's nice to see people that have helped Akron Promise get to where we are today in the audience, including Ms. Duhan, Mr. Milo, other staff members that I see here as well. So I'm going to give an update on what Akron Promise is doing now. The last time I addressed the board was 3.5 years ago, before we had done any effort within the schools at all. We were advocating for our vision for a Promise program throughout for the city of Akron. So you guys always open with these, so I thought I'd bring my own.
Well done.
Maximize business and community partnership opportunities for student success. So that's what I'm doing here. That's why I'm here. Starting with preparing each child for success and ending with our students academically prepared and well-rounded and ready for the future. So I'm going to talk about 3 of the programs that we have going at Kenmore Garfield High School. The first one is Atc Score Improvement. We hire a coach, Mrs. Laura Wilson, who provides the students with techniques and support to improve their scores. So it's in small group sessions. We want the students to qualify for additional scholarships and avoid remedial classes based on their being well prepared to take a test so that they don't have the stresses and they know the techniques that Ms. Wilson gives to her private clients that can afford to pay her fee for each individual hour she works. So we have the small group sessions. We just finished a session in February. Our last session was today. The students are taking their ACT test tomorrow. And so we have worked closely with the administration. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the support of the administration at Kenmore Garfield High School. Mrs. Brodacher, Mr. Cundiff, Ms. Zakharoff, and Mr. Mitchell, and others in the school that helped make all this possible. Chef Skelly, he feeds us. I mean, we buy the food from him. We buy the food from him, but he feeds us. And then the same students that we're helping here for their junior version of the test, we are going to renew with them in October to help them win their senior year. We actually had one student qualify for the Innovation Generation Scholarship. She had struggled for 7 tests through the ACT over the course of her junior and senior year and was unable to get that 1 point that she needed. She ended up with a 25. She is on the IG scholarship. She's been on the honor roll her 3 semesters over there at the University of Akron. She gave a wonderful valedictorian speech at Kenmore Garfield High School in 2018 about perseverance and recovering from disappointment. And I tell you, when you take your test for the 6th time and you still got a 23 and your family doesn't qualify for any Pell help, and that's in April she took the test and was able to go on. So most of our students improve their score by at least 1 point. Some students are improving their scores by 4 points. And so that's really making a difference in their opportunity for the future. So part of the reason we did that is because Akron Promise is committed to helping our students have tuition-free pathways toward post-secondary success, post-secondary degrees and certificates. And so we partnered with the Stark State College Foundation, and we have been providing up to 10 full book and tuition scholarships to Stark State College for students. Renewable for, right now it's as long as it takes. When we designed it, we wanted full-time students. Unfortunately, the students that we've encountered aren't yet prepared to take full-time college coursework. And so we have adapted our program to that gap that they have. And we are now taking part-time students, and we're having a good success rate with those students at Stark State College right now. We are requiring our students to be City of Akron residents, 4 years at Akron Public Schools, and graduating from Kenmore Garfield High School. We provide books for every student, regardless of their Pell Grant. And then if they have any gaps in their ability to pay for their tuition, we make up that tuition difference. And this year we implemented monthly group meetings with all the students. And so we bring in donuts or pizza or Subway or something, and we just have a little drop-in session where they can come in and talk to each other and figure out how things are going, to talk about what things in their life are going on. We've had students that have had health problems. One of our students missed the entire first week of her freshman year in the hospital. And unfortunately, we didn't know about it because we weren't doing this at that time. But now we're more aware, and we help the students recover in those things. We also have individual meetings with the students to talk about their specific issues in a private environment. Some of the students bring a parent or a significant other or something to come talk to us about problems that they're having with jobs or with the ability to continue in school or transportation, or the excitement about getting a driver's license, or the excitement about a new living location. And that relationship really helps these students in their success in their college environment. So this year, we, along with the knowledge of the struggles that our students have been having in college, we implemented the Student Success Team. The Student Success Team comes out of a lot of our experience and is inspired by Shaker Heights High School Max Scholars. And the idea of this team is the idea of, just like any football team or arts organization or drama club or even academic organizations or robotics clubs, and that is that these students get together to try to get them all to have better achievement. We aren't trying to get this student to get better grades or that student to improve their attendance. We're trying to get the team to perform better with better attendance, better grades, and to help each others. So it's not fully up and running yet, but we applied for some grants this past year. And so our curriculum was created with the help of the University of Akron's Excel Center by a graduate student in sociology. We talked about what can we do every month for the 8 years from a student when they're freshmen in college until they're a freshman in high school, until 4 years after high school graduation. This isn't targeted at college, but 4 years after high school graduation made a good point for our curriculum. Our initial cohort right now is 20 students out of the class of 2023. And we've incorporated 5 additional seniors who took our ACT work last year. And our junior ACT students from this year are all invited to participate. So that's where we are this year. The AVID program at Kenmore Garfield High School is helping those students in 10th grade right now, and we're hoping to incorporate our 9th graders and the AVID students next year and continue working with the students. So it's not all just how to do better. It's all about having some fun too. So next year we're going to expand. All grades are going to be served next year. The programming is actually delivered by, again, University of Akron Excel Center interns. This year we have Margaret Toulet, who is a second-year education major, who comes to all of our meetings, helps arrange all our curriculum, do the specific items with all the students. So that gives them a little bit of a relatable person who went through the things that they're going through very recently. We got some good funding this year for the coming year. So we got Akron promises providing some of the funding, University of Akron Excel Center, City of Akron Neighborhood Partnership, Akron Community Foundation Beyond the Table, and the United Way Bold Goal 2 funding. And so with that funding, what we're hoping to do with the Board of Education, with the school district, is have a supplement position funded within Kenmore Garfield High School to help coordinate all the things that we're doing with all the other great things that are happening in the school, like ACT prep that's otherwise, like the AVID program, like educational talent search that comes in, like Upward Bound. And I understand that Project Grad might be expanding, and that would be fabulous. So we want somebody that can coordinate all that to help us make sure that we're reaching every possible student in Kenmore Garfield High School in their pathway toward achievement. So this is one of our meetings in the library. That's another meeting in Mr. Mitchell's room there. This past in-service day, February 17th, we took a group of our students out to the University of Akron, specifically to talk with students who are in their major or in their area of interest. This was all student-driven. Hey kids, we want to take you to the University of Akron and show you stuff. What do you want to see? I want to talk to a football player. I want to talk to a track athlete. I want to talk to somebody that's in ROTC. I want to talk to somebody in the band. And Ms. Toulet got that done. She brought everybody in. And the kids, in this bottom picture here, is all the kids. They had an engaging conversation. They talked for 2 hours talking about what's it really like to be in the U.S. Army Reserves. What's it really like to be a track athlete at the University of Akron? What's it really like to be in the marching band and be a music major at the University of Akron? So that was really a fabulous day, but we decided to add a couple of things to it. And one is we decided to go to a couple of businesses. At the day, the Metro was giving away the Ride a Bus Day, whatever it was. They had all these businesses downtown giving away free stuff. So we got ourselves a free cookie at Sweet Mary's. That was a great way to start the day when we first got downtown. We walked over to the Stray Dog Cafe and had great hot chocolate at Stray Dog Cafe, where Charlie Murphy, the owner of that company, sat down with our students and talked to them for about a half an hour about what it takes to start a business, from borrowing $1,500 and having one hot dog cart to now having 2 restaurants in Akron. Some other things we did some team building things in our preparation to going. This was amazing. Hold hands in a tangle and then untangle yourselves. The leadership, the ability to follow, the ability to cooperate, the ability to handle frustration, that was fantastic. Those were all things that we loved doing with the kids. We took the Dash bus from downtown over to the University of Akron, and after meeting with students, we had some good time bowling for a while. So the future. So our vision remains a universal scholarship program similar to what we already have in Cleveland. We already have in Pittsburgh. It's already exists in Kalamazoo. They have programs that are similar but smaller in Dayton, Ohio. So we believe we really ought to be working toward that end here in Akron. So we've established a task force that we have great thought leaders from throughout the community, including individuals from Akron Public Schools that are helping us determine how do we accommodate the funding, how do we gain the support of the community. And I'll make one comment about the funding, and that is just last week, I believe, the University of Akron announced a capital campaign. I believe they want to raise $150 million. Akron Promise actually also wants to eventually launch a capital campaign and to educate every student that graduates from Akron Public Schools forever. We need an endowment of $40 million. All right? The money is around somewhere. We just have to have the right message. And that's what the task force is helping me do, and us do at Akron Promise. And of course, I mentioned that we're trying to find the best ways to integrate with the other student achievement programs at Kenmore Garfield High School, and therefore we are funding that position, the stipend position, to help that coach position for us. And of course, in May, if you come to the Kenmore Garfield award ceremony at the end of the year, Akron Promise will be awarding another 10 full tuition and book scholarships to Stark State. In order to do that, we need funding. So here's my shameless plug. May 9th, we have a fundraiser. It's a golf outing at 8 a.m. But for those non-golfers, Chef Skelly and his team from Kenmore Garfield High School are going to be making us a delicious steak dinner like they did last year. And that'll be a great event. So May 9th, mark your calendars. One thing that I didn't show you is that earlier in there, one of the pictures was one of Chef Skelly's students who is a culinary student at Stark State now. Through our scholarship, he actually helped us cook last year. And that's it. Hopefully I took the right amount of time there, and thank you very much for your attention. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments? Mrs. Mansfield?
First of all, I'd say that if there's anyone who could raise $40 million, it's probably Tom Ginder. And second, I always love your enthusiasm. I remember the first time we accidentally, I'm sorry I have to face this way, it's so awkward.
That's okay.
The first day we accidentally had lunch together at a table. I know exactly where we were. We were at Quaker Station, and you started to explain this to me. And I love how you appreciate the access and help of the administration. You name everyone that you appreciate, and I just want to say how much we appreciate you and your help. My favorite part of what you presented was the use of the PD day, and there's nothing that I would have liked more as a first college graduate out of my family. My mom was an RN, but she didn't have to go through the college system. So trying to navigate that on my own was just overwhelming. And to be able to sit down with another student and be able to listen to that conversation and ask those questions would have been so incredibly helpful. And so I appreciate that you did that. And gosh, and to learn to ride the bus. I mean, I learned to ride the bus because I wasn't going to get to the mall when I was in junior high if you couldn't ride the bus. But I think about students now, and so many don't. So I think that having those real life experiences, in addition to all of the other things that you talked about, I just really, really appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Mansfield. One of the things that I got to mention is that our student intern planned that whole thing.
It's fantastic.
These aren't Mr. Ginder's ideas. These were all Ms. Toulet's ideas on what we did that day.
Yeah, I just had a quick. I think it's a question. Maybe it's a comment. So obviously, it's good to see you again. Obviously, I met you and your wife before I joined the school board. We had breakfast at Akron Family, so it's good to see you again as well, Bam. I think your last bullet point on the last slide. I think you were alluding to sort of how you coordinate with other, pre-college programs, right? So like ETS and Upward Bound. I think that's integral. to what you're trying to do, and because those programs are they're capped in how many students that they can serve. So I love your vision and ambition in wanting to expand this to all Akron public school students, because those programs are obviously capped for resource issues. So I think that was my question / comment.
Well, Dr. Hall, so there's an interesting nuance there, because I did mention the pre-college programs. One of the things that we continually emphasize amongst our board, and as we talk about what we're doing, is our goals are the success for these students in life. And we don't care if they're going to enrollment or employment or enlistment. We are working to have these students have the tools that they need for whatever they're going to do. So yes, we have those other academic programs, but we have to pay just as much attention to those that are enlisting or going directly into employment. So I appreciate that you mentioned that coordination, but I want to make sure that I don't mislead you and say that we're all about college. We're all about successful lives.
Well said. Thank you.
Mr. Bravo. Yeah, I do like that too. I like that you said it all about lives, because it starts here in education and it finishes in life. And so this is the start by bridging the two together. And thank you for having the passion too, as Ms. Mansfield said, because ever since I've met you, you've had the fire. And I said, man, how does this guy keep this fire? I said, I need to learn, so help me out to keep the fire sometime. And I appreciate what you're doing for the kids.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander.
Thank you.
Other comments, questions, or? I'd like to thank you too. I will echo what Mr. Alexander says. I mean, you have been on a mission, and it certainly shows. And we're excited with what you've done here, and appreciate your passion for our students. And I hope one day we can celebrate the initial raising of that $40 million for universal education, universal scholarship. So thank you very much.
So if I can, I just take one more minute and say that some of the board members I haven't sat down with and had a personal conversation with. I'm happy to do that. Also with any of the staff or anybody out there in the audience, we can work together to get this done.
Thank you. All right. Go ahead.
You guys all have a copy of the presentation.
We do.
If anybody else wants a copy of the presentation, there's some over there on the.
Thank you. With that, I will entertain a motion for approval of the regular meeting minutes for February 10th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments, question, or discussion on the meeting minutes? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Bravo?
Yes.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick?
Yes.
Dr. Akbar?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Ms. Autry?
Yes.
Thank you. Personnel recommendations?
Mr. President, I wish to recommend approval of the personnel recommendations presented in categories 5 through 16. I do have a few items to mention before we accept a motion. The first thing I wanted to share sad news that we lost 3 staff members since our last meeting. Mrs. Juanita Field, substitute secretary, who was employed with us for 40 years. Ms. Julia Hummel, elementary LRC assistant, who worked for us for 35 years. And Mrs. Brenda Leach, child nutrition secondary helper, who worked for us for 25 years, so long-standing employees. And also, prior to the motion, I would like Mrs. McVeigh to introduce a proposed staff member tonight.
All right. Krista, if you could come up, please. Well, good evening. Tonight I'd like to introduce to you Ms. Krista Duhan Riley. Krista is a proud graduate of Firestone High School who continued her education after high school by attending Kent State University, where she received her Bachelor of Science degree in education. She completed her co-teaching and observations at Miller South and Adult High Schools, and then furthered her education by earning her Master's of Education in Administration from the Cleveland State University. She then went on to obtain her principal license in June of 2018 through our Akron Public Schools Inspired Leaders Cohort Program. Krista was initially hired to teach
Honors Language Arts at NIPSTEM High School in 2015. She was also the National Honor Society Advisor at NIPSTEM, continuing her passion and commitment to educate learners at Akron Public Schools. Unfortunately, due to a reduction in force, we had to lay her off for 1 year, and we're luckily able to recall her when she came back to us in 2017-18. So tonight, we would like to recommend her for the position of Campus Support Leader at Follop High School. Congratulations.
Thank you all for this opportunity. As we've heard, we have a lot of really innovative endeavors happening here, and I'm very excited to help lead APS in becoming the #1 urban school district in the nation, and I could not be more thrilled to be joining the Ellett family. Thank you all.
With that, we'll entertain a motion on the personnel recommendations.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the personnel recommendations. Any comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick?
Yes, but abstain on 11.5.
Thank you. Dr. Akbar?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Ms. Autry?
Yes.
Mr. Bravo?
Yes.
Mr. President, I would like to recommend approval of the resolutions and motions presented in Category 21 in our consent agenda.
Thank you. We'll take a motion on the consent agenda items.
So moved.
Second.
Bruce?
We have a motion and a second on the consent agenda items. Are there any comments, questions, or discussion on these items? Ms. Mansfield?
I have 1 second. I just wanted to point out and thank the Martha Holden Jennings Foundation for their grants to both, I can't remember who it is. That's what I'm trying to find. To Jennings, I think, and NIPSTEM High School. They're such a great partner. I just didn't want to let that go by without saying something.
Yes, thank you very much. Resnick and Nifstem.
Thank you, Resnick.
Any other comments, questions, or discussion on consent agenda items? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick?
Yes.
Dr. Akbar?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Ms. Autry?
Yes.
Mr. Bravo?
Yes.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
And finally, Mr. President, I wish to recommend approval of the business affairs recommendations presented in Category 23.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the business affairs agenda items. Any comments, questions, or discussion on those?
I did have a question about the Bricks for Kids
Yes, ma'am.
programs. Just want a little bit more information about what that is exactly.
Yeah, the Bricks for Kids program, it's actually based on the Legos. That's where the bricks portion comes from. It's a company that comes in and provides in-school workshops. They also provide out-of-school, but the two schools, Voris and Sam Salem, are having them come in and do class projects all around STEAM. So it's science, technology, engineering, and math. And Mrs. Mansfield is very excited that it's also the arts with the A in there. So STEAM activities. There's also Firestone Park is contracting with them to do family night as well. So they do hands-on projects where the students have to work together and collaborate and solve problems.
Good question. Thank you. Any other comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. McKittrick?
Yes.
Dr. Akbar?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Ms. Autry?
Yes.
Mr. Bravo?
Yes.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Superintendent's report.
No report.
I meant to give it earlier. I just asked. I was like, I'm not crazy. I didn't give my report earlier, right? Because I meant to take some prerogative and put it with community and school reflections. But since we are here, just a couple of quick questions too. And I know Dr. James is not here tonight, but wanted to congratulate him on another successful State of the Schools address. Also at which Mr. Gender and Akron Promise got a very well-deserved shout out from him. Great job, and the reception, I think, that at least that I've received and that I've heard was very positive. So much appreciation to him for that. Just a note to our board members you should have received some calendar invites today for the schedule changes for our board meetings, where we made some adjustments to account for conferences or the trip to Nashville for the middle school academy push. So you might just take a look at your email and your calendar just so that you can make those adjustments. The first one, of course, being in March 12th instead of March 9th. And with that, just wanted to send you a note also that we were confirming today board meeting dates and times as we were doing all that, which is why you got those invites, but also so that I could send out the scrimmage calendar so that each of you can start rotating into scrimmage beginning on that March 9th. Most of those are at 7:45 a.m. Once I send that out to you, it's really up to you if you think you can't make one or you want to switch with someone or one works better for you than another. Just reach out to the person that has the date that you want or the date that you can't make or something and just try and find arrangements. When all else fails, just send out an email to all of the board members and let us know, and someone will scoop that one up if you can't make it. And most of the times, I'm sure, be happy to switch with you. So the first one is March 12th, 7:45 a.m. We also are going to work on looking at the retreat dates that we had already sent out to you, see where we have the most consensus around a couple of the dates, and see if we can't convince the one or two or three of you who that doesn't work for, to see if you can make some adjustments, because we did go all the way out to April for that. So we really want to see if we can stick within the March time frame if possible. So anyway, we'll see if we can't get. You'll hear from us. Also, we'll be working on the formatting and the agenda and get some notes out to you just so we can continue to get some feedback as we move forward on that. And I did also reach out to Council President Margot Somerville to discuss getting us together again. We did not do that last year. But I always think it's beneficial when we get together and have at least a joint session or a joint meeting with Akron City Council. The couple of years that I did that, I think we did it in April and October. We did skip a year, and so but I did have a conversation with her in person and then sent out an email to her to follow up so that we can start getting something on the schedule again for that. That is it for my report. Treasurer's report.
No report.
Committee reports, legal contracts and board policy.
Well, the Legal and Contract and Policy Committee met on February the 18th. Those in attendance were Dr. Akbar.
I think so.
Sorry. It was Dr. Akbar, Mr. Bravo, Dr. Hall, Mr. Pendleton, and myself. We reviewed policies 8403, also policy, which is, late arrival and early dismissal. We also discussed policy 5230, food service. And we had a lot of discussion on a couple other policies as well. We also had, for our second reading of our legal policies, school safety and emergency situations at schools, and reviewed that. We decided that in our policies we need to have more discussion at times with our fellow board members, and so at that point in time we will get information to you all for your input. And with that, Dr. Akbar.
We also reviewed other policies, 2 additional district policies, one which is a new policy we're constructing, which is the naming policy regarding buildings or spaces within the district that are being proposed to be named after someone or an entity. Also a policy pertaining to public participation at board meetings. The naming policy has been shared with our senior staff for suggestions and review, as well as I believe it's went out to the entire board as well. And basically you have an opportunity to provide your edits for us to review and provide back to the board for a second reading. The public participation policy was also reviewed in depth. There were quite a few additions, changes, alterations, and as well as that went back to administration and senior staff for them to review again. And once we receive that back, the entire board will receive that copy as well for your review prior to bringing it back for the third and final reading. And lastly, there were a few updated policies submitted by Neola in January, and those policies will be shared with administrators and work through any edits that we need to make and updates, and legal and policy and board policy committee will begin to work through that and send that to the board as well. And that concludes our report.
Thank you. Finance and Capital Management.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the Finance Committee of the Akron Board of Education met February 24th. That's today. We had a very robust and lively discussion with the following members present: Ms. Autry, Mr. Bravo, myself, Ms. McKittrick, and Ryan Pendleton. Information was reviewed, and with the following highlights. Number one, we spent more time doing a deeper dive into the budget, so we did a budget review. So at the request of the Finance Committee, we reviewed several of the district grant and general fund budgets much more in depth. And so the committee had access to documents that are very similar to those that our directors here review each quarter to ensure that the dollars are being spent in a very appropriate and timely way. This review included, again, number one, Title I funding under the direction of the Office of School Improvement. Title II under the direction of the Teaching and Learning Department. IDEA under the direction of the Special Education Department, and CCAA under the direction of the College and Career Academies of Akron.
Thank you. And also voted on earlier under the consent agenda, section 21.1. We discussed the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission, and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county fiscal officer. So each year the board approves the amounts, and the rates resolution is then shared with the Summit County Auditor's Office. So that's something that we reviewed and discussed. And then the committee also discussed the various funding models for Ohio and nationally, followed by conversations about how to best fund schools in Ohio and where further studies are needed in order to fairly fund the public schools.
Was scintillating material today.
Thank you. Instructional policy and student achievement.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have been talking mainly about three broad subjects in instructional policy. The first one is the adoption of the Spanish materials, Spanish 1, 2, and 3, and those materials are available out in the hall for your perusal. And we will be making a motion on the 12th to adopt the resources and textbooks for the Spanish program, Spanish 1, 2, and 3. Secondly, as the middle school, college, and career academies master plan is coming together, the draft of the tactical plans has been completed, and the summary focuses on three main areas: building the soft skills listed in the portrait of an APS graduate, career exploration, and ensuring that students have the social, emotional needs met. And so those are the three areas, and especially inquiry-based learning and a welcoming, supportive environment. And the third thing is the new graduation requirements that Ms. Mansfield is going to talk about.
Sure. As you all know, the class of 2023 is going to have a whole new set of new graduation requirements, because we've had such a long time to get used to the old ones. Our district graduation committee has been working all year on redesigning our system. As you may recall, the students will need to earn at least 2 graduation seals, one from the state and one that can be a local seal, such as earning a seal for community service, fine arts, or student engagement. We'll be working closely with Dr. McWilliams-Woods to bring a formal presentation to board over the next few meetings. And the superintendent's also going to bring that revised policy to legal and board policy committee for approval by the end of March. So it'll go from one to the other. Our goal is to have everything approved by, so that we can start holding parent and student information sessions as soon as April and May. Also, the state legislature passed new requirements for the Ohio teacher evaluation system, and so we'll be getting that information out to you soon. Our committee is being briefed on the progress, and we'll also hand that off to legal and board policy. Also, just don't forget to check those updates that are in your board docs. Now that those are uploaded, you may or may not find them at your spot. I don't know that you do, but there's great pictures in there. Also, they try to compete with each other to see who's going to do the best report, and so they take great pictures as one of the best things. You'll see there's a College and Career Academy report, the Get to Akron attendance campaign, and one on the Family Resource Center. And also, there's a flyer that you can share with the public as you're going out about a health challenge that they're having. It's an 8-week challenge. There's going to be line dancing for cardio and some nutrition and fitness things, and this is the Helen Arnold Engagement Center, so keeping those things in mind.
As a member of all 3 committees, pictures are nice. Ryan has great graphs and charts, and these guys share out shared documents of all the policies, so I'm a little agnostic, but I do appreciate the photos.
We have student pictures.
Yes, that's
Sorry.
true. That's true. You win.
Better.
Are there any comments, questions, or discussion for any of the committees on any of the items that they brought forward? Yes, sir.
I'm not sure. At some point, maybe this is something we all can talk about. And this is a discussion that is happening across the country. And it goes very well, I think, with our college and career academies and the essential nature that what has been termed as soft skills are to the progression of our young people into their careers and their futures. And so we might want to look at how the district aligns our wording with the essential nature of those skills. So instead of calling them soft skills, we might want to find a more appropriate word to describe that's aligned with our culture that we're building.
Good.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I mean, I think within the corporate world, we call that emotional intelligence, and there's a whole sort of canon going back to 1996 and Dr. Goldman's work around EQ. And so yeah, I would echo that. I think it's worthy of more discussion.
Good, thank you. Let's add that to new business, and yeah, good point. Anyone else? Any other comments, questions, discussion?
Well, I actually had one more comment. So, as special as Finance Committee is, I do need to give a shout out to Dr. McWilliams. I had a chance to attend the Social Policy Committee for the first time, and I am a convert. I mean, I love finance. Woo, I love finance, but Dr. McWilliams, I tell you, that was super impressive. I'm going to be coming to those henceforth. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for that shout out.
The record is noted. Okay. We have no unfinished or new business tonight, but we do have a need for executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22 G1. to discuss for the purpose of considering discipline of a public employee or official of the school district and Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G3 to discuss with legal counsel items, disputes involving the board and/or the school district that are the subject of pending or imminent court action. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any final comments, questions, or discussion before we recess? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dr. Akbar,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Bravo,
Yes.
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
Mrs. Mansfield,
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick.
Yes.
All right, we will recess upstairs and then return after executive session. Thank you.